When we think about commitment, we also need to think about the reality of what a committed relationship is. Very soon, you will be making one of the biggest devotions of your life to each other. And what we want to discuss for a few minutes before you make that promise is how so many people make vows of marriage to one another and yet break their pledges to each other all of the time. Divorce hits everywhere and almost impacts everyone in some way, shape, or form. Divorce happens to our friends, our family, moms and dads, sons and daughters, and strangers we meet. Did you know that a divorce happens every 13 seconds in the United States? That's over 6,600 divorces per day, or over 46,000 divorces per week. When people say I do, they have dreams of being together forever. Yet on average, 50% of first marriages only last 3 to 7 years. Statistically, when divorce happens, over 75% of mothers receive the custodial rights of the children. Did you know that 30% of families led by single moms today live below the poverty line? And that over 16% of families led by single dads live below the poverty line? You see, we live in a culture today that endorses divorce. The message we constantly receive through movies, television, etc. is if it gets tough, abandon ship. Well, when people abandon ship, it often not only affects the couple, but it affects their children, their families, and their friends. Half of all American children today will witness the breakup of their parents' marriage. Close to half of these children will also witness the breakup of their parents' second marriage. So what do? What are some of the ways that we can truly fight off divorce and stay together? Well, the first two things that we have already been talking about through the entire program is to continue to spend quality time together and to continue to have quality conversations after you're married. Communication is vital to you having a healthy and happy, long-lasting relationship. A lot of people confuse the idea of getting married as being the end game in a relationship. Getting married is the exact opposite. It's the beginning of everything in your relationship. Finally, to finish on a positive note, before we start into an exercise for you, we wanted to cover some good statistics that work in your favor. Number one, if your parents are happily married, your risk of divorce decreases by 14%. Number two, people who wait to marry until they are at least 25 are 24% less likely to get divorced. Number three, attending college decreases your chances of divorce by 13%. Number four, waiting to live together until marriage can decrease your chances of getting divorced by up to 40%. A lot of people think this would be the opposite, but that's not the case. And finally, number five, by attending at least 6 sessions of premarital preparation classes, you can decrease your chances of divorce by up to 30%. Nice job. So as an exercise that I want you to do together, I would like you all to stand up, face your partner, hold each other's hands, and look into each other's eyes. Take a moment to do this now, and I'll wait for a few seconds so that you guys can get ready. When I start speaking, keep doing this as I say these words to you. Here we go. You are about to make a vow to each other, the biggest vow you'll ever make to another person, and the most difficult to keep. Because when you make your vow, you are not only promising to stay married to each other, you are promising to love your partner and stay by his or her side for the rest of your lives. You're committing to loving each other even when you're fighting. You are committing to being each other's biggest fans even when the odds are stacked against you. This person you are looking at right now will be the one that you lean on, cry with, and laugh with. You are also committing to being faithful in the way that you think, speak, behave, and love. Remember to enjoy as much as you can together in the good times and to be there for each other when life is rocky. Your commitment to one another and verbalizing it on a regular basis will help you have the long-lasting, happy relationship that you've always wanted. Thanks for listening. You can take a seat now. So the whole point of that exercise was that your vows are more than just saying I do. Dad in the last section talked about both implicit and explicit vows. There are things that when we say that we want to get married, that we verbally say to one another, like I vow to stay with you in sickness and in health and things like that. And then there are things that we don't necessarily say, but we assume, like you're always going to love me, or you're always going to be supportive of me, and things like that. So it's really about keeping this commitment and keeping your word. And I think today it seems like more and more our culture has kind of shifted the idea of what marriage is and the seriousness of it. And so it almost seems like people think it's easier to get a divorce and just start over than it is to actually stay committed. And I know that Kate has shared with me from her experience of going through a divorce, and me being a part of a blended family, that divorce is one of the absolute most difficult things that you could ever go through personally, and also with the family as well. Because when you go through a divorce, you're not just breaking up with another person, you're also breaking up with that whole family. Because obviously when things get tough, typically parents are going to take the side of their children, and that makes sense.
I remember reading one time where there's a fellow he called the Santa Fe Chronicle, and he said, is our engagement, he told him who he was, is our engagement already ready to be put in the paper? Is it in the paper that's coming out on Friday? And the guy on the other end said, yes, it is, sir, it's ready to go. And he said, well, I guess I'll marry her then. But that's the kind of shallowness that we see a lot in this culture, and that is certainly portrayed on television. It's just, love them and leave them. And so you're in an uphill battle, but it's a battle you have to undertake seriously and resolve to do together. Because I can tell you, after being married 43 years, it is possible for a relationship to grow deeper and deeper, and for that love to grow more and more sound every single year. So,
number 3 in there is false advertising and expectations. This is kind of like pulling a fast one on someone. So right now, you all are in a very, very high state of love, meaning that you're very engaged, you're excited about your futures together, and you can't wait for the things to come. And you all are portraying and acting in certain ways. You're, hopefully portraying your best selves. And sometimes after people get married, they get a little bit lazy and they don't put that best foot forward. And that's where it comes into false advertising and expectations. Dad told me a story one time where a couple came to a retreat like this, and about 3 months after they got married, they were in his office. And he sat down with them and he said, I just don't get it, guys. I mean, at the retreat, you guys seem so happy, so excited. And as he started kind of discussing with them, the wife finally said, after we got married, his expectations of me went way up, and his expectations of himself went way down. So that's why it's important, again, to be talking about the future and what you guys really expect from one another.
We have a mantra. It is, if there's some issue that you're not able to resolve, and it just keeps coming up, please go in right away and meet with a counselor and get that worked through. The sooner you do it, the better. Okay? People that ignore that at their peril.
This is where the statement of sacred intent comes in. Even with the best of intentions to be committed and to love your partner to the best of your abilities, you may have a fight or a disagreement someday that you just can't seem to work through. And as much as you try, you aren't seeing eye to eye. Because you are right in the middle of it, you can lose objectivity and your emotions can take over. By signing the statement, you are promising to talk to a pastor, counselor, or relationship coach when you can't find your way out of a fight. If, when you are working through the following material, you find you are unable to sign the statement, it is critical that you and your partner explore why that is, what it is that makes you hesitant, and what needs to happen in order for you to sign such a pledge.
How this is intended to be used is if my wife and I, if she were to come to me one day and say, you know, I can't put my finger on it, it just seems like you've been more distant. I feel like there's something wrong. You always say things are fine, but I know you so well that I know they're not fine. So I want us to go in and meet with a counselor. If I sign this, I'm saying to her that whenever you do that, if you ever do that, I will honor my word and I will go in. And the reason that's important is, for example, some couples, they are married 10 years and one of them develops an alcohol problem. And they really need to go in for counseling and maybe inpatient. Some a gambling problem. You know, so you never know things that might pop up down the road, or there might be a child who's been ill. I know one couple where he just would never talk about the child, and she felt like she was carrying the burden of taking care of this sick child all the time, and finally he broke down one night and he said, no, I think about him all the time. I worry about how the kids are going to treat him at school. I worry about he's going to be bullied, you know, all these things. And she said, that's what I need you to tell me. I need you to tell me. She said, because you never express any kind of thought or opinion about what's happening with our son. So again, read it, don't sign it if you don't mean it. But I hope you all can.
Continually work to be present in each other's daily lives. The fact is that it takes a lot of work, especially when work is crazy, the kids are requiring more attention than usual, and it seems like you can't get a moment to yourself. This is when it gets tough. This is when it takes awareness on both of your parts to carve out a little bit of extra time for each other. It doesn't always have to be a huge amount of time. Sometimes maybe only 10 minutes before bed. But that time is critical to allowing you both to reconnect and to reaffirm to each other on a daily basis that you are supportive of one another and that you are there for one another. Finally, we will end with key point number 7. We choose to love and commit every day so that we can succeed in our relationships. Being successful in our relationships takes work, time, and dedication. Remember, loving and committing are choices that you will make every day for your spouse. Be courageous, be thoughtful, and be there for your best friend. On behalf of our team, I would personally like to thank you for going through our program and hope that you've enjoyed every step of the way as much as we have enjoyed getting to be a part of the beginning of your journey together as a married couple. Take care.